I'm talking with my friend Kenny Fricke.
That's right.
Kenny is a special Strat-o-matic person who contributes to the community. He's got a Venezuela baseball hat today, though he's a Yankee fan. And here is the first cards. As they make the walk of fame.
Good, you did, awesome. That's great.
Kenny, what do you do for the Strat-o-matic community?
I do two things basically. I work on the U team, primarily working on seasons between 1950 and I don't know if it's 89 or 94. Lynn Durant keeps changing it. And I also work on the beta testers for the computer program starting in late October until January, testing the team on the U team. I've worked for about 10, 12 years, maybe longer, I don't know. But the last couple of years I've worked pretty closely with Ken Winger, where he and I are working on the transaction files. He really is the background, he does all of the background work on the transaction files, obviously starting with the existing transaction files.
For those who aren't sure, the transaction files are inside the game folder, and they contain the day-to-day transactions of the major league teams during that season. And when you do when you do automatic lineups and transactions, those transaction files are what's used.
The old transaction files were just basically a simple program. It gave a date, the player's code, and whether the player was sent up to the majors, sent down to the minors, and for what team, or if there was a trade. And that was it. There was no comments. The current transaction files obviously feed off of that. They have the same information, but off to the right of it is for on a line-by-line basis, once the season starts, is a comment for every player why that transaction is taking place.
So that's a hidden nugget in the game that gamers can open up, read as a text file, and see all the comments day to day that have been entered in there. There's some fascinating information that can only be found there.
Yeah. In addition, once that file is completed, we also create a README file for the season, and that's worth reading because it has some background on how those transaction files were created, the references that were used to bring it up to date, and in addition, Ken's added some nuggets for the season that don't appear in the transaction file.
So when you get the game, you might want to look at the transaction files, and you might want to look at the README for the season, because there's some gems in there that you might not be aware of.
Both of those files are text files.
They're text
and
files.
They're easy to read with any text reader.
So you can use your Windows Notepad to open it up.
I use something called, I don't even remember what I use, TextPad.
TextPad.
I ended up buying it because I really like the way it allows me to compare an awful lot of files at the same time. So I can compare an old file with a new one real quickly. But nonetheless, in addition to that work, I take the season and I manipulate the computer manager settings to try to get them to look a little bit more accurate for season. There's only so much you can do, but you can tweak them. I work with the pinch hitters, pinch runners. I'll put those notes in the README file. You can't put all that information. I mean, if you go to the batter's file, you can only list one pinch hitter versus lefty, one pinch hitter versus righty, one pinch runner. If you go into HAL, you can do a lot more. If you look at the README file and you want to use HAL, you've got an awful lot of information there to get started that you don't have to do a lot more research on.
People, this opens up a brand new world to many of you who are watching this. So take a good look at it.